This is a guy named Gene Bailey. If you're unfamiliar, he's a televangelist. He runs this TV show called Flashpoint on Kenneth Copeland's TV network called Kenneth Copeland Ministries, KCM, or Victory Network. Yeah, this is called the Victory Network. Anyway, they say some absolutely unhinged stuff on this TV show. Seriously, it's crazy. And they have other televangelists on. Lance Wallnau, second from the left, is a televangelist, and he's also on TV. I'm not sure which TV show other than this one. Hank Kunneman is next in line to the right of Lance Wallnau. He is a full-blown televangelist with a mega church and everything. And at the end, this is Rick Green. He runs something called the He runs something called the Patriot Academy, and he's an ex-Texas state representative, I believe. And he ran for a position as a judge and lost and then sued everybody for libel or some other thing. It was so stupid. Anyways, let's listen to what these people have to say. It's bound to be nutty. It always is. And deeply entertaining, of course. While we listen to these nutter butters of epic proportions, we are going to play some Breath of the Wild 2. I'm just kind of going through doing whatever, so shouldn't bother you too much. It'll be in the background if you've never seen it before. All right, with all that out of the way, let's listen to these people, shall we?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Gene Bailey, and you are watching Flashpoint, the first show of 2024. We're so glad you're with us. We're glad to be here, and I'm glad to be back in the studio after last week, and it's been a wild several days. Let me check in with my guests tonight, Lance, Hank, and Rick. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing great, Gene. It's good to see you in this early part of the new year.
I know it is good. We've got. Everybody had a good Christmas? I assume.
Yeah, I guess this is like. I think that this is like January 1st, 2024.
Yes.
Definitely.
Good.
Yes.
All right.
You know, Gene,
I get no one wants to talk about it apparently.
I wanted a globe for Christmas and I didn't get one. It meant the world to me.
Well, if only you had an American flag on your jacket. So.
Okay, I feel like there's an inside joke here that no one else understands. So I suppose I'm just going to continue on. Everyone is laughing. What are they laughing at? Look, there's a smile on every single person's face. Why are they smiling? Did they get the inside joke?
Oh, there you go.
All right.
I was going to say, wait, Gene, these American flags are getting a little bit. So you're starting off with the original size. Then Rick is, I don't know what he's got over there. Is that the UN and Canada, U.S. and Israel together?
No, I think he says in a minute. I watched just a second into this. It's Texas and Israel. The Texas flag, the Israel flag combined.
I can't tell from here. But then Hank has a bumper sticker on his lapel.
Yeah, mine's Texas and Israel. I had to bring a little Texas flavor to it.
That's it. I knew there was three countries there.
There's one country there. What are you talking about?
And so I'm looking at you guys tonight, and I'm feeling so unpatriotic. But who can beat Hank? I mean, he's got a bumper sticker on. I can't compete with that.
I know.
That is a big flag pin. I'll give him that.
What a way to start the new year. I've lost control already. All right, so let's get started. All right, so I don't know if you knew this or not, but we are in election season. I think it's been election season ever since 2020. But here we go. This is the big year. And so I know you at home, you're wondering, well, what are the latest poll numbers? You want to see this? Oh, yeah, you do. All right.
Yeah, so this is one of the little tricks that they're right. By the way, this TV show is dedicated to Donald Trump. It is all about furthering Donald Trump's goals and interests and promoting him and pumping him up, putting a puff in his petticoat, if you will. One of my favorite alliterations. Anyways, they like picking out specific polls that kind of look good on Donald Trump and claiming that this is a representation of the entire field rather than using aggregate polling, which is actually how you would get accurate information. So anyway, I don't know what they're about to show, but A, I don't trust their polling sources, and B, they only ever use a single polling source, not aggregates, which is ridiculous.
Watch this.
How about the Democratic end of things? Joe Biden seems poised to be the Democratic nominee. What kind of year has he had politically? Well, again, he started 2023 coming off those good midterms for Democrats, and his approval rating, 46-50, wasn't that bad, but it's taken a hit this year. And as we start to close out the year, our final NBC poll had him at just 40% approval, 57% disapproval. How does this compare to past presidents entering their re-election year? Here you can see it. Here's the 40 that we have Biden at right now. These are all the final polls heading into the election year, re-election year that NBC conducted. You just see all the recent presidents. Look, Trump got beat in 2020. He was at 44 heading into his re-election year. Bush Sr. got beat in 92. He was at 52 and heading south rapidly.
Yeah, there is reason for concern, but I really think it's a little bit too early to be concerned.
But you see how that number compares. That's the lowest. That's the lowest in an NBC poll for an incumbent facing a re-election year.
All right, so that's MSNBC. So that means absolutely nothing. That's what we
Wow, they don't trust it at all. So why did they play it?
Know about polls. They mean absolutely nothing. Although, when you start seeing these really left-leaning news channels say those things, it is something to pay attention to. But
left-leaning news channels say that because they want to make sure that people understand that this is no game. This is real. You need to be careful. You need to take it seriously, and you need to get out there and vote, period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Get out there and vote. That's why they talk about this in the first place.
I doubt it seriously, those numbers. Let me show you what Charlie Kirk had to say. First poll of 24 shows Trump winning Hispanic and youth. In the new USA Today Suffolk poll, Trump leads among Hispanics by 5 points, 39-34. He's up among younger voters, 37-34, 17% support an unnamed third-party candidate, i.e. that would probably be Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Trump leads Biden 39-37, 37-34 when RFK Jr. is named as a third candidate. Take any poll with a grain of salt, but the trend is our friend. So let me show you this, and then I'm going to go to Rick and let him tell me what this really means. Trump leads Biden in key groups. Here we are. There you go. That first, if you can see that, Rick, put your glasses on if you need them.
Wow, making fun of his age. Yeah, these people are using polling trends as a method of coming to certain conclusions that simply aren't justified. I don't know what this is. Is this from look, this is from the Daily Mail, apparently. No, the graphics from the Daily Mail. The source is USA Today /Suffolk University poll. I don't know if that's even true. These people have a tendency of lying through their teeth. So, yeah, just don't trust anything these people say is the point, okay? I have no clue if this is accurate or not, but the point is vote.
Overall voters, it shows Trump at 39. There is 17% Hispanic at 39-34. Younger voters, it's just what we just read. But, Rick, does this surprise you at all with the Hispanic votes coming in so high on this poll?
Yeah, that and the youth, right? The top one doesn't surprise me at all, but
right.
The other two, that's a really good sign for folks who recognize. I mean, the Republican rarely leads, if ever, in the youth vote and in the Hispanic vote, either one of those. So this is a really good sign for us. I do have a solution for you, Gene, as far as our initial topic with the buttons and everything. I think we need to get a hold of the Flashpoint wardrobe department, which I know we don't have one, but maybe we'll get a big enough budget and we'll create a Flashpoint wardrobe department, and let's send Lance one of those neck, you just put it around his neck and then it'll just be a big flag right there.
That's
and then he can outdo Hank. Okay, anyway, back to your poll. It's outstanding news.
Wow, hilarious. Get a humongous heckin' flag and put it around people's necks. Love it.
Outstanding news. Because remember, this is in the middle of all the attacks, all the indictments, all of the negative press, all of those things, and yet he's still leading in those two categories that we wouldn't expect a Republican to be leading. So I think,
again, don't trust these polls. Certainly not individuals. We should be looking at aggregates, polling aggregates, and we should only be using highly rated polls. A lot of the times, statistics professors or statistics classes or whatever will point out that if a poll has a margin of error that's that's 4 or higher, throw it out. It's worthless. You can't come to any accurate conclusions at all that are worth having from that poll.
I think that's very good.
What about you, Lance? You see this big jump with Hispanics. I think the common thought was this is why the borders were open, because the left was...
Borders are not open. Never were.
Really leaning on the fact that we were going to have so many Hispanics coming to America, and they would have this unbridled affinity for the left. Well, that's not exactly what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. This is a conspiracy theory called the Great Replacement. Now, if you guys have never heard of the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy that exists, at least in part, as a result of anti-Semitic garbage, basically. The conspiracy theory started originally in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, an old set of texts, an old set of like articles, news articles or whatever, claiming to be the Jews' plan for world domination. In reality, it was just completely fabricated. It was plagiarized, 80% of it. 80% of the supposed protocols from the Elders of Zion was plagiarized straight from an 1854 French satire book. So, the Protocols of the Elders of Zion is completely made up, never was real, but it did talk about the Great Replacement conspiracy. It claimed that it was, so the document claimed to be from like the elders that the Jewish elders that ran Jewish, plans or whatever. And the elders of Zion, the Jewish elders, were planning world domination, and their plan, the protocols, were found on a dead Jewish soldier. They weren't, of course. They were made up probably by the Okhrana, the predecessor to like the KGB. One of the plans for world domination outlined in the protocols was bring in a bunch of foreign nationals that will further the goals of the Jews, basically flood the area with people who like Jews the most. And then they'll be able to take over the entire country, pretty much. I mean, it's fabricated nonsense. And that's exactly what was claimed by the far right. That's what's being claimed by the far right to this day. That the left is trying to bring in, foreign people like Mexicans or whoever, any immigrants at all, because immigrants vote to the left. Donald Trump claimed Hillary was bussing in, busloads of immigrants to vote in the elections. It's all fake. It's all false. Immigrants do not vote straight down the line Democrat. In fact, depending on where the immigrants are from, they lean Republican, not Democrat. I used to have an explanation of why the Great Replacement conspiracy is ridiculous, but I can't find it for some reason. Anyway, just rest assured that it's absurd nonsense that's being pushed by Republicans. And when that's recognized, like this is fake, this is not how it works, they say the Democrats were sure trying, but it didn't work out the way they planned. No, nobody planned that. That wasn't part of like any calculation or whatever the hell you're talking about. This is just fake.
Bridled affinity for the left. Well, that's not exactly what's happening.
No shit. Really? That's not what's happening? You don't say. Color me surprised. Of course that's not what's happening. That was never a plot or whatever by Democrats. The Great Replacement is insane, ridiculous, conspiratorial nonsense.
Well, if you get into the crosstabs on this, Gene, you'll find that it's the youth vote that is really shifting. And it's shifting away from Biden in white, Hispanic, and Latino crosstabs. So the youth, because let's face it, Biden can't mask the fact that he really is like, dad at the nursing home. Everybody knows that. So, but the part that is...
No, Biden is not suffering from cognitive problems. He's simply not. You can claim he is all you want. It's just not happening.
Nothing is going to be easy. You're going to have to pay attention to Flashpoint and shows like this year, folks, because almost all the data that is optimistic for us is Trump against Biden. Now, like some 50%, the big factor here is the independent vote, because the Democrats kind of are baked in one way. People that love Trump aren't moving no matter what you try to do. His numbers only go up when he gets indicted.
That's not necessarily true. And also, I don't think that independents are the key factor in any elections. In my humble opinion, I believe that it is enthusiasm. Who can you get out to vote for your guy more than the other? Because it's roughly equivalent. Roughly, I mean, there are a lot more Democrats in the United States than there are Republicans by a wide margin, but Republicans have gerrymandered the hell out of everything. And as a result, it's roughly equal who is going to win any given election. The determining factor for who is actually going to take the presidency is which side is more enthusiastic. Last time in 2020, anti-Trump people were more enthusiastic. And Republicans even moved over and voted for Biden because they were so disgusted by what Trump was doing. So we'll see if that happens again this time. I think it's going to. Nobody is like Biden's biggest fanboy. Nobody likes Biden. They're not out there voting for Biden over other people because they like him the most. That's not the reasoning. The reasoning is they believe that he has the best chance of beating Trump. That's why that's why Biden wins any given election. It really doesn't have much to do with independence, in my humble opinion.
People that love Trump aren't moving no matter what you try to do. His numbers only go up when he gets indicted. But
some Republicans will move over, or some Democrats will decide to vote instead of staying home.
If he ends up getting convicted.
Sorry, one thing. KJ Dog Love, I like Biden. I think Biden's okay. Yeah, I mean, he's done some pretty decent things that have been valuable on the left. He's forgiven a lot of student loan debt. He does claim the title, a self-avowed title of Zionist. He says, I am a Zionist, and I'm not really a fan of that. But anyways, he's not terrible. He could be worse. But he doesn't inspire change and love and excitement in people the way that Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump did, for example.
This is what they're saying now. That surge that he's experienced gets adjusted. Now, here's the worst case scenario. I don't want you to be too optimistic starting the year off. If Trump ends up against Biden without a conviction in these indictments, he sails in. But if he gets convicted in one or two of these cases, the gains get dropped because the media will lie about it and say he's a criminal, and suddenly he loses that advantage. Then if you switch Biden out because we damage him with impeachment stuff, right, then you roll in, it's going to be a whole new ball game with Newsom.
Wow, dude. So this guy is like plotting how he's going to ruin Biden through impeachment investigations. Like, that is so deeply crooked, isn't it? Is it just me, or is that like straight up wrong? Impeachment was never supposed to be a political tool to use against your political enemies. Impeachment is intended to be used by people who are concerned that the president did something deeply wrong while in office. That's what it's supposed to be used for. Lance Wallnau just outlined the Republican position pretty clearly, right? They seem to have like a vested interest in ruining Biden through impeachments. How twisted around and messed up is that, really?
So let's strap ourselves in for a wild ride in 24.
It is going to be a wild ride. And you're right. I'm glad you brought that up, because those are all elements to this race that will have a part in what happens. But Pastor Hank, as we see this happening, I really want your opinion here. There seems to be this massive shift in the atmosphere, not just at church. I'm just saying there seems to be a shift with Trump coming into this year. Do you sense that? I know Rick is DeSantis, but I want to get your opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Rick Green on the left here talked about liking Ron DeSantis. I forgot about that. That's kind of interesting. I can't believe they let him back on.
Well, first of all, I think the polls, I don't think they're accurate. I think they're probably a lot lower. And probably what those poll numbers reflect is, machines that are used to, make certain outcomes for elections and that kind of thing. And I think it's.
Oh, my God, dude. This guy believes that Trump is like the most persecuted person alive. It's such a joke.
It's also the fake news that's trying to, project a certain image. But I do think something, and I will answer your question here in just a second. I think we have to also watch, to Lance's point, and that is they may try to lower those numbers even more for this fake administration so that they can convince us that they have something more qualified. And so I think we need to be aware. But there is a shift in the air. God prophesied and said that this year, 2024, would be the year of rest. And that.
Okay, interesting. So he claimed, when he says God prophesied, what he means is that he claimed to hear the voice of God, and that voice told him that blah, 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 whatever it was. God did not prophesy this thing. You told everybody this thing. And also, funny enough, Hank Kunneman claimed a whole bunch of stuff about 2020 that never came true. So, sorry, I'm having a little trouble trusting you after all of that.
That's from prophecies back in 2018 and 19, when God said ahead of time that the decade would start off harsh, very harsh, and even prophesied there'd be a plague. Yeah. And then he said we would come into a time of rest. And part of that rest is rest from our enemies. And when God brings rest from our enemies, he brings vengeance against the wicked. And I think we're going to see that play out as part of that shift this year.
I do believe that. Let me go back to you, Rick. We've talked about this on and off through last year. You still think we're going to see Biden out of the race before we get to November?
Yeah, I almost jumped in after Lance got done. I was going to say, I know Hank hasn't got to talk yet, but his flag pin's big enough that I get to talk twice. I absolutely think
he is stuck on that flag pin, isn't he?
Biden will not be the nominee. I still stand by that, and I think that's why I think Lance's comments were.
Oh, yeah, I think he believes that Michelle Obama is going to be the nominee or some other ridiculous nonsense. Like, come on, man, really? Such a joke.
So good about the numbers are going to change depending on these things, and I think Hank is right. I mean, listen, this shift is happening. God's doing something special in the country right now. I'm watching people online. As I scroll through social media, I'm seeing Democrats apologize for supporting Biden. I mean, that's a weird.
Okay, I haven't seen anything like that. I don't know I don't know what Democrats follow him and talk to him regularly. Like, what Democrat would do that? Like, who is he talking to or about here? I don't know of anybody who apologized for voting for Biden. Not a single person.
Situation we're in now. A lot of people are starting to run from him. And, of course, a lot of that's the pain, right? I mean, everybody is feeling the economic pain. They're watching the border happen. They're realizing this guy is a disaster. But usually the Democrats stick with their guy, so that's highly, highly unusual. But, again, I definitely think they cannot go with him as the nominee. I do think, I know we've all said probably Newsom, but we've said this really for about a year and a half now. It could very well be Michelle Obama.
Okay, so he thinks it's Newsom. It's going to be Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama. Well, Michelle Obama unequivocally and without question said, I am not running for president. Usually if a politician kind of is thinking about it or has intent or whatever, usually they will be a little bit more, careful about the words that they use. Or maybe they'll say, I don't think so. No, not right now. Now is not a good time. That kind of thing. But Michelle Obama straight up said, no, I'm not doing it. I want nothing to do with that. And you can't blame her after what happened to Barack Obama. Oh my God, they treated him. Well, they treat presidents really, really badly. That's just how it is. The press does every time.
And let's not forget the timeline. I know I said this a couple of weeks ago, but just keeping this in everybody's mind, Lyndon Johnson, it was March of 68 before he got out. So we probably got at least another couple of months of them kind of keeping Biden out front. And then at the right time, they're going to move him out of the way and slide in with Newsom or Michelle.
Who is they? Who is he referring to here? Is some ambiguous authority that takes control and like imposes its will on the people or whatever other nonsense? This is insane. This is an insane thing to say, and it's easily disproven. I can't believe he had the apple bag to even say it, truthfully.
Michelle Obama.
So I want to know why you think Michelle Obama.
You know, it's the same reason that when you come in this late with somebody, you need to have somebody that has almost 100% name ID. She's got no voting record herself, so there's not the negatives that you would normally come in with. Of course, everybody would try to, obviously say anything Barack Obama did, she did. But the fact that she's a female, all of those things.
There's this huge conspiracy theory on the far right, which these people most definitely are on the far right. It's a huge conspiracy theory that she's not a woman. And God, can you imagine having a conspiracy float around about you like that? And she's not even running, and that's floating around like that. That has got to hurt deeply. You got to feel for Michelle Obama.
The attacks very difficult for the Republicans. So honestly, for the Democrats, she could be exactly the right person to drop into this mix of everything at the last minute. For us, it's got, when I say us, I mean those that don't want the communists to take over, because I really think Barack Obama turned out to be not just a socialist, but a communist, and she will be very much like him.
God, they think that socialism is one step on the road to communism, like not understanding the difference between the two. It's ridiculous.
We have to recognize what we're up against. They're going to have the media, and with someone like her, man, they're going to paint a rosy picture, and it's all going to be negative about Trump. And all those numbers Lance was talking about, it's going to change dramatically. So we're in for a real fight.
Lance, do you agree here with Rick? Or what? Well, let's talk about, do you agree or not with Rick? But I also want to tag on to that. We need to at least hit the whole Vivek and Nikki.
It's pronounced Vivek.
Haley, who seems to be higher in the polls. Do you see any shift there? Of course, DeSantis is still there, but I don't think there's really anything.
This is a two-part question, Gene. You're throwing at me here, as you typically do, solving world hunger and predicting where oil prices go, all in one question.
In 30 seconds, please.
Back to who's going to run on the Democrat ticket, and then we'll segue over to Vivek, if you want to, and Nikki Haley. It's a frightening prospect, is it not? That America is so capable of low information and manipulation that it could indeed be totally galvanized by Michelle and Barack at that, oh my gosh, coming out. Where's the convention going to be? It's in the Democrat convention. Can you imagine that? Woo, that would be so exciting. He's back in the game, and she's running, and he's the first man, lady, or whatever they're going to call him. Then Newsom as a
Dude, what the hell is he talking about? He's the first man, lady, what?
VP pick, and her saying, I will only do it to protect us from Trump and the ravages of the extreme nationalists for one term, and that Newsom needs to have his opportunity, and we're going to move together in unity. I mean, that would be a really bad situation. But I don't know. I know that she doesn't want the job. They're living great. They've got millions of dollars and no stress.
And this guy here, Lance Wallnau, of course, he does not have millions of dollars, and he does have stress, right? Totally.
And Barack is probably telling her, honey, I'll be right there by your side. It'll be easy. I'll run the thing for you like I do Biden. But
give me a break.
She has to want to be in that fight. And I'll tell you something. She's kind of an activist, but she doesn't have the hunger for that fight.
All right, Pastor Hank, but how are we going to pray? Go ahead.
Well, let me,
So Hank Kunneman is going to come in and express his deep, undying love for Donald Trump, effectively. Like, he believes that Donald Trump is, God, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not just a guy, but like, he's something more. He's been chosen by God. He is God's, nominee, or whatever the hell you want to call it. He thinks there's something additional to it, an additional level here.
I think one thing we have to look at is this is what I really sense in my heart. I think Obama is damaged goods. I think people in this country that voted for him regret it. They didn't realize that it wasn't so much about the color of his skin, it was the darkness of a man's heart and his policies. And I think they've had enough, and I think that they understand that there's a lot that has been attached to him. But here's the real deal.
Yeah, I don't regret voting for... I wasn't involved in politics when Obama ran. I would have voted for Obama for sure if I had been. The first election that I was ever aware of or whatever was the 2016 election with Bernie Sanders, and he was my guy for sure. I loved Bernie Sanders, dude. I would have done anything to get that dude elected. Canvassing or whatever it took. He was really cool. But anyways, I was not involved with Obama at all, so I don't know how people felt. I understand there was just as much excitement and energy around Obama as there was around Bernie Sanders and honestly around Donald Trump.
2024, pay attention, 24 is also a governmental number in Scripture, and it just so happens that it coincides with 24.
Oh my God, he's laying Bible code down for us. Give me a break, man.
Our election cycle here, because the court of heaven is involved. And you say, what is the court of heaven? This is very important. When David committed adultery with Bathsheba, Nathan the prophet was sent by God to bring the court of heaven to David and to bring righteousness, justice, and accountability. And this is what is happening, and it will happen to Barack Obama and different ones who thought that they could bring this kind of evil and turn this nation away from God. They're being brought to the court of heaven, and it doesn't matter what they try, it will backfire because now God's justice is involved. So be watching for that.
We will. Good word. All right, so this is why you need to be following. When you get bored with Lance's program, make sure you're watching.
When you get bored with Lance's program, wow, shot across the bow, huh?
Watching Flashpoint. No, Lance's program's never boring. We're going to be following this all year long. And as you know, next Monday night, we start broadcasting 3 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Make sure you join us.
Wow, they're upping their broadcast schedule. Interesting. Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, I think they said. Well, just means more insane content for me to talk about, right?
It's right here wherever you're watching. Right now, I need to tell you this. Please, 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 as much as you can, go to Rumble and search for Flashpoint and follow us there. If you like to watch on Facebook, if you like to watch on some of these marginal social media outlets, I say marginal when I say they don't really allow free speech like you and I want to have. We've been canceled. We've been suppressed.
Oh, give me a break, dude. Such a victim, right? They're constantly being victimized by the people around them. Millionaires, all of them are millionaires. And they're being victimized by everybody around them. Oh, it's so terrible.
And we're still dealing with that, and we're just now entering 24. So Rumble is not suppressing us. That's why we're pushing that as a way to watch. You can always find out more at govictory.com/flashpoint. But Rumble is we're going live there. We're live there right now. We'll be...
Truthfully, I don't think that they're being suppressed anywhere, come to think of it. I think that, there used to be rules on YouTube about election conspiracy theories, not just American election conspiracy theories, but, Brazilian election conspiracies and a whole bunch of others. And YouTube just opened it up. They just said you won't be taken off the air or whatever for discussing election conspiracies or for espousing election conspiracies. They opened it up not too long ago. So I don't know what these people are complaining about, but it's just complete nonsense. Get over yourselves. You are not persecuted, okay?
Live there. Over 400 videos are there right now that you can watch. You can catch up on things you may have missed. So stay in touch with us and watch what we're doing. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to move on, even though Lance didn't answer my question with Nikki Haley. But
wow, dude, like shot across the bow for Lance once again.
let me show you. No,
Like sick burn.
no, Lance, I'm out of time now. No, I'm out of time. I got to move on.
$50 million, Gene, $50 million the Koch brothers put into Nikki Haley. That's the only reason she's surging, and she's going to do it in New England and in Carolina, and then she's going to tank.
Dude, I find it fascinating that they're talking smack about Nikki Haley, another Republican, what do you call it? Like another Republican candidate or whatever, because she's not Donald Trump. They're going to talk smack about her because she's not Trump. They'll do anything they can for their God Emperor Trump, and it's wild.
All right. So do you think she's going to do something in Iowa?
Nikki Haley has no chance. The nominee is going to be Donald Trump. That's just what it is. But to like trash other candidates seems like ill-advised, right? I don't get it. Whatever.
No, but they're going to treat it like, I mean, here's the thing. It's hilarious. Trump will be ahead like 30 points. Nikki Haley surges, and it's going to be in front of DeSantis. There's still going to be like 2% of the total electorate. And then she's going to go on to New England, and she's going to show a strong showing there in New Hampshire, then a strong showing in North Carolina where she's governor, and then that's it. But they're going to try to push her on Trump as a running partner, and that will be a disaster to the base.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that as well. I don't see it. Rick, do you see that? First of all, I don't see President Trump saying, oh, okay, I'll take her. I just don't see that happening. Rick, right. Do you think that's the case?
Well,
yeah, I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be Trump's running mate, honestly. That's my current opinion. I guess we'll see. I think Trump really wants somebody really, really, really far to the right. But, I don't know. Who knows for sure, right?
Supposedly.
Usually when presidents are running for office, typically what they'll do is they'll pick a vice president that shores up one of their weaknesses. For example, Barack Obama was new to politics, reasonably. He had only been in politics for, 5-10 years or something. And he was black. So what did he do? He picked the pastiest old white guy he could find who had been in politics since 1933. And the same thing happened with Donald Trump, actually. He picked somebody to shore up his weaknesses in 2016 as well. He knew that he needed the evangelical voters to win. So who did Trump pick as his nominee? As his vice president? He picked Mike Pence, famously extremist Christian nutcase, because that was his weak spot. Now, if Trump picks Marjorie Taylor Greene as his running mate in 2024, it's not going to shore up any weaknesses. It's just going to make him further right. He's already as far right as... He's the furthest right out of any candidate right now. So I don't see the point in that.
Trump himself has been asking people, what if I take Haley? What do you think about Haley? That supposedly that was his idea. That sounds like a Trump idea. So I hope not. I hope that somebody dispelled him from that if it was him, or that if it was some
disabuses him of that, I think is the word, not dispels.
Of his advisors, that he would absolutely say no, because Lance is right. That would, the grassroots would just rebel. It would actually push a lot of people to RFK.
No, it would not. Are you kidding me? Donald Trump has voters that are so loyal that they will do absolutely anything for the dude. It doesn't matter who he picks as his vice president. Now, people in the center are going to be less disturbed by what Trump does, or by a Trump presidency, if Nikki Haley, somebody a little not quite as far right, is the VP. People on the left will crawl over broken glass to prevent a Trump Marjorie Taylor Greene candidacy or presidency. They'll crawl over broken glass for it because it's just that bad. So MTG is probably a bad choice for Trump as VP. Nikki Haley would be a much better choice
as the third-party candidate.
Yeah, I agree.
But I will say on your question that you asked Lance that he refused to answer, Vivek, I just got to say this on Vivek. I have to retract my retraction.
By the way, I don't know if you guys remember this or you saw this or what, but Flashpoint got Vivek Ramaswamy on to do an interview, and the point was to divide the field. Trump wanted division in the field because the more divided it was, the higher chance he had of being picked as the nominee. This is at a point in time when he wasn't sure if he's going to win the Republican nomination or not. He was a little bit less sure of that position. Now everybody knows that he's going to be the nominee, right? So he doesn't really care. But they had Vivek Ramaswamy on this TV show, which is a far-right Christian TV show who views Trump as God's chosen man, effectively as an anointed person, a messiah, if you will. Seriously. So bringing Vivek Ramaswamy on, even though it helped Donald Trump to divide the field, was viewed as wrong, basically. So, yeah, I'm sure they won't have too much good to say about Vivek Ramaswamy here, probably.
Vivek, I just got to say this on Vivek. I have to retract my retraction. Whenever Rolling Stone said that here on Flashpoint, I gushed over Vivek, and then I later said, I did go too far. I shouldn't have gushed. I got to just say, guys, I'm telling you, this kid answers virtually every question better than any candidate that we're watching on any side of any of the parties. It's phenomenal when you watch him stand in front of that truth banner and answer the questions one after another on race, on you name it. He's saying what our side believes better than anybody else. And so part of what
it was bizarre to listen to them straight up apologize for having this candidate on and say they are Christians and they are Donald Trump supporters first and foremost, and they will always stand behind God and Donald Trump. That's what they said. It was wild to listen to them say that stuff. And then this guy came out and said positive things about Vivek because he was trying to help divide the field. And after the backlash they got from the audience, sure enough, he did. He came out and he apologized for speaking positively about Vivek Ramaswamy. It was seriously crazy to watch.
I gushed about that day when we had him on Flashpoint was that I wanted him in the race to articulate those positions and move people towards us. And he's doing that. And even Trump has been saying a few really nice things about him. I think he's going to hold a pivotal role in the administration. It's most likely going to be Trump, but I think Vivek is articulating things really well. I think he probably gets, you guys are going to think I'm nuts, but I think it's going to be DeSantis and Trump and Vivek all very close. I don't think Nikki's going to do near as well as everybody's saying she is in the Iowa caucus.
No, I don't either. I don't think Nikki Haley's going to do well. I think it's going to be obvious that it's Donald Trump as the pick. But Nikki Haley's doing better than Ron DeSantis is. That's the point. And you know why, in my opinion? Let me tell you why I think that Ron DeSantis is doing so piss poor right now in the election or in the primaries and stuff like that. I believe he's doing so piss poor because he's way further right than anybody expected or wanted. They didn't want a far-right alternative to Donald Trump. They wanted somebody who's not quite as extreme as Trump. That's what they were looking for. People in the Republican Party and the center and everybody else. They were all looking for someone who was a little bit more in the center, a little closer to the center. But DeSantis is running around everywhere, banning books and talking about trans people and literally taking people's freedoms away in the name of his ideology. What happened to small government? He's not in favor of small government at all. He doesn't even pretend to be. And what's even more fascinating about DeSantis, that's why I think that he failed, was because of that. Another fascinating thing about the guy is that he very obviously recognizes that book banning looks really bad on him. We're going to go to google.com and we're going to type in book ban Florida. And if you look here, you will see, here, Education Week. There's confusion over book bans in Florida schools. Here's why. Let's click here and see what it says. I don't know who Education Week is, what this is, or what, but it's the very top result because it's sponsored. It's being paid for to be at the very top. The Duval County School District in Florida last month removed a book about Afro-Puerto Rican baseball legend Robert Clement from library shelves for review. Removal of the book made national news. It was among more than 1 million titles, and the district said it was reviewing to adhere to Florida's laws, restricting lessons, blah, blah, blah. This month, Ron DeSantis, the state education commissioner, blamed districts for overreacting and removing the books, such as the ones about Clement and Major League Baseball player Hank Aaron. So you're seeing what happened, right? So somebody is paying for this website to be at the very top of the search results. I don't know who. But look, it says sponsored. It's a sponsored website right here. And when you go there, it's positive about Ron DeSantis and makes it out as though DeSantis agrees that it's gone too far, but he doesn't want to see, pornographic books in the libraries, basically, is what he's saying. DeSantis realizes how bad this looks for him, the book banning thing, and for a while now has done everything he could to get away from that perception and reversed course largely. So anyways, I don't know, what happens from here or whatever, but Ron DeSantis, in my opinion, has ruined his reputation with anybody to the left of hunting the homeless for sport. That's just my take on it. Right, let's continue with Flashpoint.
And then Trump will start pulling away from everybody. But I think Iowa's going to be close. It's going to give Vivek more of an audience, which is good for all of us. We need him articulating these positions the way that he is.
Yes, and he took a lot of his comments straight from Barack Obama. But speaking of plagiarism, let's talk about that.
Wow, that was that was on the nose. They just accused Vivek Ramaswamy of plagiarism from Barack Obama. I mean, in all fairness, he did directly quote Obama and pretended that he came up with it himself. Seemingly, that's what it appeared as though he was doing. So I guess fair enough. But these guys are not playing around. They are done being positive about Ramaswamy now, apparently. That's nuts.
Someone else is in the news today. Look at this tweet by Christopher Rufo. More plagiarism, and independent researchers found 6 additional plagiarized passages in Claudine Gay's academic work. The total is now approaching 50, and this was January 1st.
6 additional plagiarized passages in Claudine Gay's academic. I have no idea. Oh, wait, is she the one that she was the Harvard person? Like she was the Harvard CEO or something like that, right? Claudine Gay, and there's a claim that she plagiarized her work. And the reason that this exploded the way that it did, first of all, let me just say she did not plagiarize her work. I think it was her PhD dissertation or something like that. From my understanding, she quoted some work from somebody else, and she cited who she got that information from in the references section, but she forgot to put quotes around it despite actually citing it. She cited it, but didn't put the quote marks around it. So it wasn't plagiarism, it was improper citation. And, they basically cleared her of wrongdoing when they investigated. They being like Harvard. Harvard investigated accusations of plagiarism. But the reason she's under the microscope in the first place right now by these people is because she said, she was at some hearing in front of Congress, and they said, if somebody says that they want Jews dead, is that a violation of the code of conduct on your university campus? And she said, if thought crosses into behavior, then yes. Basically, she's trying to avoid the political undertones of the question, is the bottom line. It was a trick question. There was no right answer. She's being put into a position where she's being forced to either talk shit about Palestine or talk shit about Jews. That was the position they put her in. Just like the question, what is a woman? They posed that question. Representative Marsha Blackburn, I believe from Tennessee, posed that question to Ketanji Brown Jackson during her Supreme Court hearings. She said, what is a woman? The answer she's looking for is an adult human female. That would pit her against the trans community. If she didn't say adult human female, it would pit her against the Republicans. And so she chose to not answer at all. She said, I'm not a biologist. I don't know. I'm not, like, why are you asking me? I'm trying to become a Supreme Court justice, not a biologist. If I need to answer this question seriously in one of my cases, I'll have a biologist come in to testify for me, basically is what she said. These questions are commonly asked by people on the right and honestly on the left as well, with the intent to put people into an unwinnable position. The question that was asked of the head of Harvard, the CEO of Harvard or whatever it is, the president of Harvard, the question that was asked of her was, if somebody wants to kill Jews, is that a violation of your content, your code of conduct? If she says, yes, it is a violation of the code of conduct to want to kill Jews, that's a thought crime, and gets into all kinds of really questionable stuff. And she's signaling her support for Israel. Whether she supports Israel or not, that's the end result. If she says, no, that's not against our policies to want to kill Jews, she's signaling support for Palestinians, and also, seemingly, she's genocidal. So she tried to sidestep the question the same way Ketanji Brown Jackson did, by saying, when thought crosses into behavior, it is a violation of our code of conduct. That's what she said in response. And that turned into basically, she's in support of murdering Jews. And she was put under the microscope to an extreme degree after that and accused of plagiarism on her dissertation and everything. She was exonerated of plagiarism, but they've pulled up a whole bunch of quotes, apparently, in her dissertation where she supposedly plagiarized. I mean, the first accusation of plagiarism was false. I'm assuming this one is also, unless given reason to believe otherwise. And taking it on the word of the Flashpoint crew is absurd. I'm not believing a word out of their mouths unless independently verified. Simple as that. Wonder why they didn't go after the other two presidents, I think, of Penn and MIT. Yeah. Those are the other two. They wanted to pick one. The thing about outrage among the Republican Party is they can only be outraged about one thing or one noun at a time. They can only be outraged about one noun at a time. For a while, it was CRT, and then it was wokeism. And you get all kinds of bizarre stuff coming out of the woodwork. People claiming there's pole dancing in elementary schools that they want to ban and stuff. Because they believe that wokeism has just gone too far, Like this guy got 40% of the vote to be governor of Pennsylvania back in 2020, I think. Or 2022, maybe.
On day one, the sexualization of our kids, pole dancing, and all this other crap that's going on will be forbidden in our schools.
Pole dancing in our schools, he says. Pole dancing.
On day one, all the pornographic books that are in elementary schools will be pulled out.
I mean, all of this is completely made up, obviously. I'm sure I don't even need to say that. But this is a strategy. Like, zero in on a single thing that outrages a base and talk about it nonstop. They can focus in on one person, place, or thing at a time. And they chose the president of Harvard to zero in on in that immediate moment.
Now, what you see there in red, that's the stuff that's exactly the same. But wait, there's not more. Look at the next page. It's still there. So much more, up to 50.
Like I said, it was a dissertation. I don't know what I'm even looking at here. I would have to read the entire thing. I do know that she's under the microscope of the far-right extremists. So I'm very, very skeptical of anything that they say about her. I don't believe that she plagiarized. When I'm given reason to believe that she plagiarized, I will believe that she plagiarized. Until then, I'm simply not going to buy it. I'm sorry.
50 passages and another one. There's so much. I don't even have time to read all that. So look at this. Charlie Cook breaks it. Harvard presidential candidate. Harvard President Claudine Gay has resigned in backlash over response to anti-Semitism on campus and expanding plagiarism scandal. Hers marks the shortest tenure as president in Harvard's history. Now, Pastor Hank, here's what I think.
That's really sad. Like, I don't know what her position was on it. It just seemed to me like she's trying to avoid the political questions to me. You know, it's sad that the far right won. They put her under a microscope and they were successful in ruining her life. That was the goal, and they did it. Disthroned. So my understanding about the lady from Harvard that got fired, there were a lot of legitimate issues people had with her, cracking down on protests and doing things that hurt black students. But the reason she was fired is because of her race. I forget the guy's name, but he worked for a right-wing think tank and decided to focus on getting her fired for anti-woke points. Couldn't remember the name. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm not 100% familiar with the situation. All I know is what I laid out for you guys. And she is black. That's true. She is black. All I know is what I laid out for you guys. I don't know if, she was like cracking down on protests or maybe she plagiarized. Maybe she did. I don't know. I do know that her life was put under a microscope by the far right, and anybody's life will come to a screeching halt when put under a microscope that way. That's just how it happens on the right. Like, my life was put under a microscope by the far right and Trump supporter extremists in my little town in West Virginia, and my life came to a screeching halt, just like hers likely did,
People plagiarize all the time. This backfired on her, and the light started being shown on her, and her deeds were found out. But what this says to me here is that there is a shift, that we want people that are actually going to tell the truth. And I think Harvard actually dealt with so much backlash. We know that this is these guys.
Yeah, Harvard didn't fire her. She resigned. So she was dealing with backlash, and Harvard was withstanding that backlash. But she couldn't. She gave up. She's like, I'm done. I can't. People don't even realize what goes into the extreme pain and fear that gets generated by people like these guys right here, these four on screen, zeroing in on your life. And Donald Trump zeroing in on your life, like Ruby Freeman and her daughter, I think. They suffered terribly at the hands of Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump. They were accused of heinous things. They were attacked. They were, they had to leave their homes. They were put into a protection program by the FBI and stuff like that. It was crazy. All because Trump accused them of, passing a USB stick between each other to alter votes, when in reality, it was a ginger mint. It turns people's lives upside down to be the focus like that. The answer to wanting to kill Jews is no. Anything other than that is wrong. So her dancing around the issue is gross, and I'm glad she's gone. Okay, I appreciate your mention of that. I will allow that. It was captured by Twitch's thing. It was a political question designed to force a political position. Just like the question, what is a woman? It was designed to force somebody into a political position. I agree that killing Jews is wrong, period. No questions asked. There's no more There's no deeper analysis to it. Killing Jews is wrong. Killing anybody is wrong, period. But that question and the way it was phrased, the context in which it was asked, and the person asking it, it was all put together with the intent to force her into taking a political position that she didn't want to take. As the leader of Harvard, she's not supposed to be taking positions on politics at all, on anything, and they were trying to force it. So she said, she refused to answer, and that was an answer in its own right. In a vacuum, in any other circumstance, somebody walks up to me and they say, is killing Jews wrong? My answer is yes, absolutely, without question. It's wrong, it's evil, it's disgusting, and it should never happen. In fact, the fact that the question is even asked is horrific and evil and wrong. But the context that she was in set her up for, a political situation. Improper citation in published work is extremely serious and can be treated as plagiarism. If the accusations were even half true, it would ruin the scientific career of herself and many of her co-authors. That's true. But this was, she cited it. She cited the person. She put the citation in the back, in the references, and from my understanding, she even put a little, footnote marker next to it, but she forgot to put the quotes. So the citation was proper. The quotations were in the wrong spots. That's my understanding. Either way, my understanding is she's exonerated of wrongdoing after they investigated and found that. Just say wanting to kill on the basis of religion is wrong, and that's that. Yeah, I agree. It's wrong to kill on the basis of religion, and that is that. There is no further, deeper analysis to be had there, period. It's wrong. But who was asking the question, the context in which it was being asked, and the way that it was worded was all set up to put her in an unwinnable political situation that was that was forcing her to take a side on a political issue. It wasn't just saying that, killing it based on a religion is wrong. It wasn't just that. She necessarily, by answering the question, which was posed as a yes or no, not as a, give me a more complex answer. When posed as a yes or no, that question that was asked of her was going to put her in an unwinnable position. So, anyway, that's the problem. If she stood for killing Jews, which I'm 100% sure that she didn't, but if she did, I would be opposed to that, as I'm sure most people would. The vast majority. It's just that, this is the kind of thing that the Republican Party does. They put people in unwinnable positions just like this all the time. The question, what is a woman, is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. She got pigeonholed into a heads I win, tails you lose situation. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Van Briggs. That's correct. I would guess that she believes exactly the way that I do. That it is unacceptable and evil and wrong to kill somebody based on their religion. Jewish or not. Jewish or Muslim or whatever. Doesn't matter. It's wrong. But she couldn't win that situation. Simply disagree, Owen. I'm sorry, she should have answered that question. Very difficult from the what is a woman question. I'm sorry, I assume you mean this is very different. No, it's not. This is effectively the exact same situation. It is a political question that was posed to somebody to force them into giving a political answer. It is an attempt to pigeonhole people into it. And if she didn't want to answer the question as a yes or a no, I understand. I totally get that. I wouldn't want to answer the question as a yes or no question either. If she was allowed to give a more complex answer, I'm sure that she would have explained that killing on the basis of religion is wrong. And that's just what it is. There's no more to it. But she wasn't being allowed to give her full answer. It was a yes or no question. And that's just not a yes or no answer. So, anyway. It's also complicated because she's the head of... She decides who gets banned from college campuses and stuff. Like, she is the determining factor. So, what she says there, they could be forcing her into making a policy decision without, like on the spot. Like, they put her in a difficult position intentionally. That congressman did. Anyway, that's just how I feel about it. I understand you disagree. That's okay. We can disagree on things, I figure.
They run on funds, and this is a besmirchment to Harvard's face forward. What do you think?
Well, the Lord said something on our New Year's service when he prophesied, and he said that we've entered into a time of rest. Notice it's the word enter. Just like a race, you still have to run it, but you've entered. So we've entered into rest from our enemies. God's going to rest his case. And he said that it's a year of divine reckoning, and it's also a year of unsealing. And I think what you're seeing with this particular person that's resigning, it goes back to, I just had my staff send me a prophecy from 2021, and then earlier this last year that said, watch the Ivy League schools. There is a stench that has come before me, and even their leadership, because of things that they have stood for. And God says, as you see them brought to the news, and then listen to this, Pastor Gene, removed.
God didn't say any of this. Hank Kunneman said all of this and then claimed to have heard the voice of God telling him all of this. Those are two very different things. I just want to make that clear. I want to draw that point out and make sure everybody understands that Hank Kunneman is claiming to speak for God right now. Super nerd, half of her published works are implicated in the investigation. If she plagiarized or improperly cited or whatever, and this is 100% legit, like she really did this stuff, I completely disagree with that. That's wrong, and she should have resigned from Harvard. She shouldn't be allowed to have a career where she educates or writes papers or researches or whatever because of that. I think that's wrong. Simple as that. Okay, the policy situation explanation makes a bit more sense. Not wanting to be forced into making policy on the spot. I still disagree with her handling of it, but I understand your viewpoint now. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we could, come to an understanding of each other's positions. Yeah, it is a complicated situation that politicians were trying to make very, very simple and forcing a position on her. So, anyways, yeah, not great. All right, let's keep listening.
It is a sign that I am resetting, reversing, and a shift, to your point, is beginning. And I think you're going to see more and more of this reversals, resets, and then ultimately removals as God begins to set up new things, as it says in the book of Daniel. God's the one that tears down kings, and he sets them back up. And I think we're going to see it across the board, not just in politics, because this is about the generation of children that we are going to get this country back for them.
Amen to that.
This is the generation of children that we're going to get the country back for them. Wow. Okay, cool.
All right, let me show you, Lance, I'm going to give this to you. Liz Wheeler writes, Claudine Gay resigns from Harvard. Crushing loss to DEI, wokeism, anti-Semitism, and university elitism. The way to defeat wokeism is to be savage and relentless. If we are, morality will triumph over Marxism.
Savage and relentless. That is such a disturbing viewpoint to have, no matter what. I don't care who it is. Savage and relentless is concerning as it gets, honestly. And these people, the far right, Flashpoint crew, and others, the people whose tweets we're reading right now, they have a very, very deeply disturbing viewpoint on this stuff, seriously.
Able to start 2024. Huge props to real Chris Rufo. All right, so Lance, here's the part that I want you to speak to, because what we have here, and people are going, I know my religious friends out there are going to go, oh, we're not supposed to be savage. We're supposed to love everybody.
Yes, thank you. Exactly. Oh, we're not supposed to be savage. We're supposed to love everybody. Exactly. He's getting it. No, he isn't getting it. He's about to explain why they shouldn't love everybody. They should hate some people and be savage against them. You know, for the record, Jesus said, if you want to make it into the kingdom of God, what you must do is be a good person, love each other. He said, the sheep and the goats parable. The sheep are on one side, the goats on the other, and he says to the sheep, I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me water. I needed a place to sleep, you gave me a bed, or whatever it was that he said. And the sheep said, but Lord, when did we do those things? And he said, what you've done to the least of my brothers and sisters, you've done to me. And he invites them into the kingdom of God. That's what's required. You want to be, a follower of Jesus. You want to be Christian, follower of Christ. You have to love your neighbor as yourself. You have to feed the homeless and the poor, and you have to provide for them and help them out of poverty. Do everything you can. Give up everything that you own if it means helping people. That's what Jesus said. It's that straightforward. So go ahead, Gene Bailey, and tell me how Jesus didn't want you to love. He wanted you to be savage. Let's hear it.
We are going to love everybody, but we're going to be savage in our love. And we're not going to allow these things to take over. Do you see that happening, Lance? I mean, this is... you and I have talked about, and I heard you, I think you were one of the first people I said, we cannot remain on defense. At some point, we have to go on the offense.
So he says we are going to love everybody. We're going to be savage in our love. Really? That is, I thought he's going to have a better justification than that. That is piss poor, right? Is it just me?
Absolutely. I mean, remember, it was the Apostle Paul, and when he was being tried, and he was smitten across the face, he said, God will judge you, you whitewashed wall. Do you think to judge me according to the law? Yet contrary to the law, you order me struck. And they said, hey, that's the high priest. And they said, oh, sorry about that. I didn't know. Thou shalt not speak evil of a ruler of thy people. Paul was willing to go there. The same Bible that says turn the other cheek says that an angel of the Lord immediately smote Herod because he gave God not the glory.
Okay, so, right. So what he's doing here is ignoring what Jesus said. Saying, yeah, sure, Jesus said love everybody. But you're ignoring all of the other parts where other people in the Bible, other than Jesus, said we should hate other people. So he's not even he's not choosing to selectively agree with certain verses. No, he's actually ignoring what Jesus said. He's completely discounting what Jesus said and says we shouldn't be paying attention to what Jesus said or believed or espoused. We should be hating people, period. That is psychotic. What is wrong with these people? Dude couldn't have been clearer. Jesus, I mean. He couldn't have been clearer. I was hungry. You gave me food. I was thirsty. You gave me something to drink. I just died. And that really sucks. I was trying really hard not to do that. You gave me a place to sleep when I had nowhere to go. You get to be in you get to be in the kingdom of God with everybody else because you were good to me and my people. That's what's required. And Lance Wallnau is completely ignoring all of that. Saying, disregard it, ignore it. It's irrelevant. We don't care what Jesus said. We care what the angry, vile, hateful people said. Seriously. Does it get clearer? These people are shameless. Honestly.
This is the year to be able to justly balance the mercy of God and the judgment of God, the fear of the Lord and the goodness of God. There's just scales that are about to come out. By the way, the thing about the Harvard president most people miss is The Jewish donors were really, and remember, Harvard has a lot of Jewish graduates. A lot of Jewish donors were putting the heat on and saying, not another dollar. Right. That got their attention with the money. It wasn't the conservatives. It wasn't DIE and all what we're looking for. The other thing, Gene, and this is the part most people missed, the Harvard Crimson Review. The students. Remember, Harvard fears their students more than anything. I've been at protests at Harvard where they were protesting me. The Harvard administration is afraid of not making their students happy. That's why she caved in front of Congress. The students started writing, "You hold us accountable for plagiarism and kick us out when we lie? How can we have an administrator who plagiarizes?"
Again, if she plagiarized, like really, I don't stand for that. And she should be removed from her position as whatever. I mean, she wasn't removed. She resigned. I don't know if that's why she resigned or if it was another reason or what. I have no idea. But she should not be in a position like that if she plagiarized, period. I just don't know enough about the situation to say if she did or not. That's all.
That's what did her in. It's the students. It's like Jezebel's eunuchs that throw Jezebel out of the window. The students are the key to the changing on the campus.
Rick, what do you think? I mean, it makes sense to me. You think that's really, and why is this so important? Why should we be taking notice?
Well, it's huge because it's a repudiation of what the left has been trying to do. I mean, think about what they've been doing. They've been spitting on Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream for decades and decades.
The left has been spitting on Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. Is that what he just said? Yeah. Totally. Yeah, it's the left. The left has been spitting on Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. Absolutely.
So they've been flipping this thing on its head when he said, we should be judged based on the content of our character, not the color of our skin. And so they've been using DEI to choose people based on the color.
By the way, they've said DEI a few times. I don't know if you guys are aware of it. I think most people probably are aware of what it means by now, but DEI is an acronym that stands for... Are you serious? The exact same... This is driving me nuts, dude. I'm not doing this shrine right now. I can't stand this shrine. The exact same thing happened. I hate this shrine. Anyways, DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. It's a department of a school or of a company or whatever. They sometimes create Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to make sure that everybody is included in the work, in the hiring process, in the acceptance process, in the whatever.
Color of their skin and their sex organs. That became more important than anything you knew, whether...
No, it's not important. More important. I'm sorry. It's not more important. It's just part of the equation, as it should be. Everybody should be included. We shouldn't be in a situation where people are being excluded from this or that or whatever disproportionately because of their gender, their sex, or the color of their skin or whatever. And that's what's happening right now. That's what's happening. Departments of Equity and Inclusion are setting out to make sure that people are not being excluded from those things for those reasons. That's it. But he's flipping it around to turn it into white people being persecuted because other people are receiving equality. When all you know is privilege, equality feels like oppression. What's the opposite of nut-picking called? As in selecting hateful stuff to support your side. What is the opposite of nut-picking? Where you're only picking the reasonable examples? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the opposite of that would be. I'd have to think about that. Anybody got any answers? What's the opposite of the nut-picking fallacy? I'm not sure if it's a fallacy or not, but nut-picking something. What is the opposite of it? That's a tough one. When you said, I just game overed, that really sucks. I thought you were still talking as Jesus. It took me too long to realize you mentioned game. Yeah, sorry. I did that on purpose. I thought it'd be funny. And it was. They obviously think the red words don't belong in the Bible. Apparently not. It's just bizarre to me that these people hold the beliefs that they hold. It's just wild, man.
or not you plagiarized. If they had done the opposite, if they'd actually done what MLK said to do, judge people based on the content of their character, are they capable, what's their application, all of that, they could have ended up with, if you didn't care about whether somebody had the right color skin or the right sex organs, they could have still had a wonderful black female president. Carol Swain probably would have ended up being the president of Harvard.
I have no idea who that is, but I'm sure she's some far-right nutcase if these people are endorsing her.
And they would have had somebody that was qualified, but they didn't judge them based on that. Because they went only after color of skin and sex organs, they got someone that was an absolute fraud. And so now they're embarrassed, egg on their face. They got all these other problems. Get back to the biblical principles of blind justice and the biblical principles of neither Jew nor Greek, and judge people based on the results and what they actually do instead of on all this leftist stuff, and we can restore the good results in these universities. So this is I think, a shot across the bow to all the other universities. I got my own Texas A&M right here in Texas that's got a president now that's adopting all this DEI stuff. So this poison has spread across the country.
My God. Texas A&M, I believe, actually invited my wife to be to go to their law school after her LSAT scores, but it's Texas. Who wants to be in Texas? Nobody. Texas is just the worst. It's awful. The only reason anybody lives in Texas is because they were born in Texas. The only reason you ever defend Texas is because you would be embarrassed to live there if you weren't already born there. Nobody likes Texas.
A lot of it started there at Harvard. This is a very, very good sign that at Harvard, they're finally having to stop this nonsense. Well, not stop it, but this will arrest it a little bit.
Well, and it's just not Ivy League, like you said. There's even in Christian colleges, we're hearing and seeing some of this happen. And listen, you may think it's not yours. Do your own investigating, folks.
Do your own investigating. Do your own research. I hear that from these people constantly. All right, here's the thing. Inclusion and protection of minorities or the protection of people's rights who are not white is not oppression of white people. That's really the key problem here. That's what these people don't seem to understand. It's not oppression to receive equality, for you to be equal to people. That's not oppression.
Before you start spending your money to go to some of these people, you need to make sure you're investing in the right type of education. But here's my point, Lance.
Oh my God, the right type of education.
This last comment here, I'll let you take us out to break here. This is where typically you get your people that are going to be in government. They come from Harvard, they come from Yale. You know, where's Eric Metaxas? Or you're going to get somebody along that line. This is where this has kind of been the pool from which they pull from. How far we've come since the Harvard Theological Seminary, when the whole thing began. You know, this has been it's a huge, huge disappointment to all of America.
Harvard Theological Seminary? I'm unfamiliar. Did Harvard have a seminary?
We're not out of the woods yet, but I do believe that there's something happening, Gene, that's going to become more of a movement. And that is, as parents discover how their children are being radicalized and indoctrinated, you're going to see more of a response.
Children aren't being radicalized and or indoctrinated by going to college. Unfortunately, I hear the exact same thing from Jehovah's Witnesses. They say the same thing, nearly word for word. They discourage college education because if people receive college education, then there's a high chance, once they see the world for what it is and escape from the Jehovah's Witnesses, like, brain rot, effectively, once that happens, they separate and they're like, I'm done with this. They walk away. And Jehovah's Witnesses are like disturbed by the fact that people are leaving after realizing they're completely full of shit. I'm seeing the same exact thing with these people here.
It takes time for this stuff to permeate the consciousness of a nation, but it's coming to the surface now because the anti-Semitic pro-Hamas protests at major universities has created, it's kind of like beef.
There are no pro-Hamas protests at anywhere in the United States that I'm aware of. I've never seen or heard of a pro-Hamas protest in the United States, ever. There are anti-Israeli government, not anti-Jewish, anti-Israeli government protests. And there are pro-Palestinian people protests. But, you know, they have to flip it around. They have to turn it into something that it's not. If somebody is protesting the extremism, the hatred, the violence, and the destruction of the Israeli government, not of Jews, of the Israeli government, then that means that they are pro-Hamas.
Thankful that God allows these things to come to the surface because it's accelerating the exposure of the problem. And I do think as Americans get educated, they are not going to go back to sleep on these subjects.
That's good.
Good. We don't need it. In fact, one subject we don't need to go to sleep on is the border. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to connect with Ben Bergquam live at the border. See what
Ben Bergquam, I think that's what he said. What a stupid name. I'm sorry, man. Also, the border is not wide open, quote unquote, as these people claim. It's just not. But, of course, they have to be the victims in every situation, and they have to freak people out and make them think some crazy thing is happening. So they're going to claim whatever they have to claim to get you whipped into a blood frenzy. In this case, they're going to claim that the border is wide open. Just insane. Anyway, let me know what you think about it in the comments. These people need mental help for real. This is absolutely nuts.